Tell you what, if the Victorian Liberal Party was a girl, you'd tell your son she was crazy and never to be brought home to dinner again. The never-ending John Pesutto and Moira Deeming saga continues to drag on. Today it's that 4 more members of the party's administrative committee have joined Colleen Harkin in challenging a loan from the party to Mr Pesutto to pay what he owes to Ms Deeming after he was found to have defamed her. Now, if you're not aware of the recent details, in short, Mr Pesutto had to pay Ms Deeming $2.3 million in legal costs on top of the $300,000 that he had to cough up for defaming her. He managed to raise nearly $800,000 himself, but the deadline to pay was looming last month and he didn't have the rest of the cash. So there were 2 options. Either someone stepped in to pick up the tab or he'd have to declare bankruptcy. Now, bankrupts aren't allowed to sit in Parliament, so that'd force a by-election in his seat of Hawthorn, and there was a real risk that the Libs could lose it. So the party's administrative committee agreed in a secret ballot to loan $1.5 million to Pesutto from a party entity called Vapold, and that was meant to ensure that Pesutto didn't go bankrupt, Deeming got her money, and then everyone would be able to move on. Except they haven't been able to move on because, as Stevie Wonder could have seen coming, there are plenty of people in the party not happy that members and donors are having to stump up a serious amount of money to essentially bail out a fool who picked a fight he didn't need to and never should have to bring down a female MP and then refused to settle, which would have stopped all of this palaver in the first place. So Ms Harkin launched an injunction on the money through the courts last week, and now 4 of her fellow committee members have joined her. They argue that the loan was invalid under the party's constitution. Now, my understanding is that the party was made aware of the injunction on the day it was lodged and then paid the money before it could be heard in court, basically preventing the possibility of an emergency injunction, but the case will return to court this Friday. The Herald Sun reported today that in new documents lodged with the court, the 5-member group wants the $1.55 million loan to be repaid in full, with a declaration that the funds are held in trust for the members of the Liberal Party. They also want the court to declare that Vapold directors Alan Stockdale, a former Victorian Treasurer, current party Treasurer Karen Sobels and Christopher Pearce have acted in breach of trust by paying the funds to the trust account of lawyers for Mrs Deeming, Giles George. That would mean Ms Deeming giving the money back and Mr Pesutto then owing her again, which would most likely end up in new bankruptcy proceedings that could force him out of Parliament. Sources close to the case told the paper that it could go on for as long as 12 months, which is the last thing the Liberal Party needs, because there's a state election in November next year, and they'd like to think that they'd have a chance of finally running Andrews-turned-Allen government out of town. Some senior Liberals certainly hoped this loan would be the end of the matter and that they'd be able to get on with trying to win an election, but that's certainly not how it's played out. And they have no one to blame but themselves. Fancy thinking that you could just bail out a former leader who's trashed and defamed one of his own MPs, exiled her from the party, and that there wouldn't be a backlash from members and donors and party officials. I mean, these are the people who pay their hard-earned money for the benefit of the party, and they do that so the party can succeed, so it can win elections, not so it can protect dopey men like Pesutto, who's done a great deal to hurt the Victorian Liberal Party in recent years and may well be the reason that they lose their 4th election on the trot, because you just know Labor is going to bring all of this stuff out and all the dirty laundry that was aired during the defamation case. It will all come out again when the campaign starts. And I'm sure the proponents of this loan will be screaming and carrying on and accusing Colleen Harkin and co of tearing the party apart. But they may want to reflect on the fact that it was Mr Pesutto who tore the party apart when he decided to wrongly accuse Ms Deeming of being connected to neo-Nazis after she spoke at a women's rights rally. It was Mr Pesutto who tore the party apart when he then moved for her to be kicked out of the party. It was Mr Pesutto who made matters worse when he refused to settle the matter for $100,000 and instead let it go to trial, which is what led to this massive debt and a court case where Liberal frontbenchers gave evidence against their own then leader. And for all this, the party rewards him by saving him from bankruptcy. They should have just let him go bankrupt and forced a by-election, because let's be honest, if they're worried about the fact that they could lose a by-election, I mean, they really think that Pesutto would be able to defend his seat next year after all this carry on? He's the one who caused this mess in the first place.